Alexandra Hoang, and I'm a member of the Girl CEO Teen Advisory Board. And today I'm be talking with Valerie Red-Horse, the founder of an American Indian nonprofit organization and a Presbyterian dance ministry, having built multiple businesses as well as being an award-winning filmmaker and a powerful Wall Street investment banker, having led over $2 billion in the tribal finance and industry-related transactions. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What got you first interested in the business field?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming out and interviewing me. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I love what you're doing. I have to say that when I was growing up, we didn't have nearly the resources that are out there now for people interested in entrepreneurialism. There was sort of an assumption that you followed a plan. You went to high school, you went to college, you got a job. And the whole idea of owning your own business was pretty rare and wasn't really taught. So for me, when I look back at every step of starting a business in different sectors, it was all because of the phrase that I use, the old adage that necessity is the mother of invention. And what that means is, my husband and I were married out of college, and he was a football player, and I had majored in film and acting and television, and we both had sort of our ideas of what we wanted to do. And they didn't work out exactly the way we thought when we were in college, how our lives would pan out from a career standpoint. So along the way, when life would throw us a curve, we realized, well, here's an opportunity. Instead of it being an obstacle, there's an opportunity here to do something. And each time it seemed like it led to us starting a business because we felt very strongly about that particular area and that was what we wanted to do. And so we started, first we started our advertising specialty business called Executive Specialties. And that came about because my husband blew out his knee as a professional football player and then had to, find another career. And we never thought that we would be into something that, in essence, is sort of an office supply in the advertising specialty business. And that came from a number of different synergistic situations that we couldn't have guessed at. And then for me, I, during that time, was going on auditions as an actress, and I thought, here I have a degree from UCLA, I'll be a successful actress, and that's my life dream and my career. And along that journey, I had people who I was auditioning for give me scripts that had a lot to do with Native American content that were clearly misrepresentative of our people. And out of that, I said, well, I want to start writing. And out of that, I wanted to start directing. And out of that, I wanted to direct and produce. And it led me to start my own production company and eventually do all of the disciplines, directing, writing, and producing. But it really came out of not a plan when I was in college of wanting to do that, more because as I saw the content that was out there and being, given to me, that it was wrong, it was inaccurate. And so in order to be able to have more control and more say in the content that I felt strongly about, I had to start my own business. And I think when you talk to a lot of people who end up owning businesses, that is the path. It's not one where they just wake up one day and say, I want to start a business. It usually comes from hitting some roadblocks, being fired from a job, or something that happens that causes you to get into action. And even if that first event looks negative, in the end, when you look back many years later, you can look at it as a positive.
Oh. So when you were little, you aspired to be an actress?
Yeah, that was my career choice from when I was about 13 years old. What happened, I was in junior high or middle school, and I enjoyed all the entertainment arts. I was an actress for school plays. I was a dancer. I was on the dance squad or the cheerleading squad, the pep squad, I think we called it. And I really enjoyed performance, but I didn't understand how I could sort of launch that into a career, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. And then one week in middle school, we had a drug prevention week. There was a lot of drug abuse going on, as is common now as well. And they sent people in during the week to advise us on why we should not do drugs. And for 4 days, it was a 5-day presentation. The first 4 days were just boring. I mean, one policeman came in and he had like drugs glued to a board, and he went through and said, now this is marijuana and you shouldn't do it because, and this is an amphetamine, you know. And the message was good, obviously, but the presentation was horrible, and people were bored and passing drugs in the back of the classroom. It was just awful. And by the 5th day, they brought in a film, and they didn't introduce it, they didn't talk to us, they didn't lecture us, they simply showed the film.
Like, here.
Yeah, and it was so impactful and so powerful. It was a film similar to Scared Straight, where it showed the effects of alcohol and drug abuse and people being killed, and it was very graphic and very emotional, and everyone in the room was just silent, and I saw people's lives change from that film. And this whole choice of my career had nothing to do with drug use, the fact that that simply was the topic, but I felt the excitement of the genre, how a message had so much more impactfulness if it was told in a dramatic way, and the whole art of filmmaking, I was just completely captured after that. And I said to myself, I don't know exactly what message I have burning inside of me, but I know that I want to do it through film. And from then on, I got very involved in whatever I could in my local town, and then knew sort of, early on that I was going to apply to UCLA and USC, but I chose UCLA because of their film program, and then just, went from there. But I really made that sort of life decision when I was about 13 in that presentation on anti-drug use.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So I know that you made the film Naturally Native. How is producing and starring in that?
That was one of the highlights of my entertainment career and my life, because the fact that I did a film way outside of the Hollywood way, meaning it was independent, I had a lot more work to do. I had to raise the money, I had to write the script, I did pretty much every discipline. But at the same time, it meant that we didn't have any studio looking over our shoulder telling us this is what you have to do, and you have to compromise your principles. We made a film that I felt spoke to the heart of the message we were trying to convey. It was completely encompassing of my family and my life. We filmed at our house. My daughter acted in it. My husband was on set cooking hamburgers for the crew. I mean, it really was a family project. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed in my life is being able, as an entrepreneur, to include my family in the different business ventures. And Naturally Native was a family ordeal, but it was an awful lot of work, and it's one of the films I'm the most proud of. And it's exciting because it's now about 10 years since we made it, and we've had a lot of success, and Turner Classics is going to be broadcasting it next month, so we're very excited that it still has a current and relevant message, evidently.
That's cool. Why did you decide to manufacture the products in the movie?
That is an interesting story. In fact, I think that's one of the most interesting stories from a business perspective to come out of the film. When you make a film, you typically have some test screenings prior to what we call locking picture. So you have your print for the film pretty much set. As a director and a writer and a producer, we all, collectively with the editor decide this is what we think is the right mix. But then you have some test screenings to see audience reaction. Do they laugh in the right places? Does the music capture the emotion? And you have time to change it if something doesn't seem to work. And you also ask them questions, so you have an interactive audience. So we had 3 test screenings scheduled around the LA area. We invited people of all ages and race and gender to get a good well-rounded audience response. And we would show the film, and we would stand at the front and ask questions like, okay, did you like the music? Did you think the laughs were fun? I mean, whatever the questions were. And they inevitably didn't really want to give us feedback on the movie. They wanted to know where they could buy the product. And at that point, the product was a fictional product. It was something that we had come up with on our kitchen sink for my daughter's science project, and then it seemed to fit well with the movie. But it was really a literary device because I needed to have a company to talk about starting a company, and so that's what we created. And I was so socked into the mind of a director, writer, producer that I kept arguing with the audience, no, we don't have the product. I really want to know about the music or whatever. And my husband, who's always my great sounding board, was sort of in the back of each of these screenings saying, are you listening? They want to buy the product. There's a demand for your product here. And so he is the one that really pushed me to start yet another business where we did create and manufacture an all-natural herbal native hair care line. And the irony of the entire story, and I tell this when I speak to groups about entrepreneurialism, is you have to think outside the box. I was sort of led there, but I had to be able to realize that opportunity, because as of this day, the shampoo, conditioner packages that have gone on QVC and in gift stores all over the country have made more money than the movie itself. So lessons learned. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the biggest obstacle you had when reaching your dreams?
I would have to say myself, meaning I think anyone who's in the entertainment industry, well, actually in any industry, but in the entertainment industry, we tend to beat ourselves up because it is a very visible industry. And from an early age, I would be out there in plays or doing whatever you would do in the entertainment world, and you put yourself at the mercy of critics. People say, you know, she was horrible in that, or she was great in that. And I had to learn, don't read press, or you can read it, but don't give it any sort of credence. And that's true of both positive press, because that'll inflate your ego, and it's true of negative press because they're just doing a job and it's nothing personal. And what I learned is, you know, I created obstacles because of my lack of self-confidence at times, just thinking, can I do this? I'm a Native woman. A lot of people have said no one else has done it ever before. What are you thinking? Are you crazy? I didn't come from money. I had a background, you know, in theater and film from UCLA, but I mean, there was still so many questions about, am I capable? And this whole Hollywood environment is just tough. I mean, it is
really scrutinizing.
Yeah, and people are mean and ruthless and backstabbing. And what I had to draw on when I created my own sort of negative thoughts was to go back to the basics for me, which is my spiritual background, my faith, scripture, and knowing that, you know, God's created me for a plan, and I'm perfect in His eyes, and just not to pay attention to all the commentary. I mean, there's always room for constructive criticism. We're never perfect in our projects, but not to be an obstacle to myself in waking up ever in the morning and saying, oh, I don't think I can do this, or no, you know, no negative energy. Just get rid of that and move forward with the confidence that God gives me.
Yeah, have the confidence to do what you want to do.
Absolutely.
While you were like, you know, pursuing your dreams, who are your role models?
Well, you know, there are so many role models in the world that I admire, and there have been mentors along the way. You know, UCLA had a lot of mentors, and I have a professional mentor in Gail Ann Hurd, who's a producer that I've worked with, and she's been very helpful. But I have to say, when I go back to basics, it absolutely is my mother. And you can't ever substitute the love and the nurturing and the empowerment that can come from a mother. And I suppose the opposite's true when the mother is not a positive role model. But in my case, my mother, she's 90 years old. She is an activist. She is ambitious. She's, at her age, she's enrolling in classes because she has a desire to learn and to constantly have her mind active. She's a writer. I definitely inherited the writing gene from my mother. And this last year, she was diagnosed with cancer. And she's never had anything wrong. She's a very health-minded person. And instead of being depressed about it, she looked at it as an opportunity to get healthy. And she checked into a health institute where she's on all raw food and wheatgrass juice.
Wow.
And she's in remission. I mean, it is, my mother has always been amazing, but that story in and of itself just sort of reinforced my view that I was so blessed to have been born to this woman who really taught me to grasp life by the horns and you know, go for the gusto and really enjoy it and take risk and look at everything with a positive attitude. And I can't ever thank her enough, because she really made me who I am.